Hi, my name is Oleg Jaworski and I work for a company called GSC Game World as Senior PR Manager, and we've been working on a game called STALKER. STALKER is a survival FPS game set in the near future Chernobyl exclusion zone. The area full of radiation, mutants, anomalous weird energies, artifacts, various stalker factions, lots of weapons, RPG elements, and ultimately open-ended world, a living and breathing environment that exists alongside yourself and which is totally independent of the player, which is very exciting to have in a shooter game. Each player is going to get his own kind of experience, his own unique experience. So because every time you play it, there's something different going on. Those mutants, they would go, animals, they would go hunting, looking for food, taking rest. There are full life cycles sort of attached to them. And there are different stalker factions and NPCs. They also go around, do their own missions, sit in camps, sing guitar songs, they drink vodka, etc. So they do their own stuff, and you could be walking around an area seeing combat taking place, and you haven't triggered it at all, like a pack of, say, blind dogs would be fighting against a camp of bandits around. And you can participate in there, or you could just avoid any involvement in there. So things and events happen just independently of your being there. And depending on how you play it, you will reach one of several endings that are there. We've created seven different endings for the game, and which are all affected by the style of playthrough. The game is set in this Chernobyl area, and stalkers, in fact, is like there are marauders there who go into that exclusion zone. So we actually try to populate this world and make it really living and breathing, and we created different types of monsters and animals, mutated creatures. Some of them were powered with abnormal characteristics, abnormal powers. Like we made use of telekinesis and telepathy. There is a monster who's actually invisible called Poltergeist, and you can raise physical objects from the ground and throw them from distance at you while you're playing. Really atmospheric and unusual kind of monster to fight. And there's another one called Controller, and you can take other creatures under his mental control. So as the player himself, actually. So he's very dangerous. And really wanted to come up with some scary but at the same time kind of interesting new kind of monsters there, and we wanted to add sort of personal kind of characteristics to each type of monster. Like there's a mutant pig there called Flesh, and it's really cowardice type of monster, so it wouldn't fight you unless you are injured or you run out of bullets. It's a very mean kind of monster at the same time as well. So we've enabled all the creatures and NPCs evaluate the combat situation all the time, so they sort of assess that. So they may panic at some point if they just realize that they won't be able to win against you, for example, or if they see that you're injured or weak, they might just decide to attack you, or if you are fully armored and have good weapons, they probably would not. So they're able to decide on that. They do really good tricks, and for instance, NPCs would be finishing off half-wounded enemies by uttering something rude to them first, and then finishing them off. And then they would be doing group tactics. They would be boasting of, say, killing or injuring me as a player. So you could hear that in combat, and it's really making this combat lively and atmospheric. Yeah, we did several trips to the zone in order to do the research for the game. And we actually were initially quite resistant of just doing the game set in Chernobyl without actually knowing how it looked like. So it was only after, and it's obviously a very sensitive topic, so we didn't want to offend anybody's feelings about that. It's a tragedy. So we went into this area and we took lots of pictures. We got this right atmosphere, we understood what it should be, and it was only after we realized that we'll be able to render this right atmosphere we proceeded with just implementing this idea. But the stunning fact is that practically every building you would see in the game is modeled and is textured off the real buildings in the area. So the city of Pripyat, this ghost town, which is totally empty, used to have 50,000 residents in there, now rotting and amidst forests and wildlife, and the sarcophagus and vehicle cemeteries, all of those notorious locations are there in the game. And I'm sure players will learn a lot of how things look there. And our idea was to create a warning kind of game to remind people about this problem, of course in our own game way, but to remind people about not being actually careless with some natural powers they don't know fully about. So Stalker was created as this kind of warning game in mind. Well, on behalf of the team, really big thanks to all the players and the community and everyone who has supported us through the years. And finally the game comes out this March, particularly on 22nd of March you would see the game finally ship. And well, thanks again for the support.